Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you once again to Poets of the East, a program that Misha and I have been working on for 2 years. We try to bring you glimpses of the lives and the thoughts of poets and storytellers and artists who normally we only get to know in a 2 minute or 3 minute window. We hear a piece, we're touched, but to me, I feel like I'm only seeing the tip of the iceberg. I want to understand what brings this poet to the table today. What inspired them? What was that moment, that touch that said, I have to write. I don't have a choice. I've got to do that. And we all know, those of us who are poets and storytellers know that then there's another step where this poet or this storyteller says, I want to share. I'm not content just writing in my notebook. I'm not content just sharing this with friends, but they become a performance artist, a performance poet. And we have two wonderful exemplars of that today. In addition to my brother Mircea and Duta, we have Dane Ince, a poet and artist from San Francisco, and we have Sasha Stojanovich Stojanovich, who is going to be joining us more. We're going to hear his story in the second part of the show. But first, let me give my friend Mircea Duta a few minutes to give his introduction. Mircea, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I can only agree with Rick that this edition of Poets of the East is a special one because it is for the first time when among our guests we have also a prose writer, Sasha Stojanovich Charlie from Serbia. And we consider this as something normal because prose writing or prose as a genre within literature can have its own poetic, its own poetry. It is only a kind of different poetry, a poetry of a different kind that makes one of the main features of the respective kind of literature. I would only like to add that our program, since those more than 2 years we have been making it, proved its utility and its efficiency through the fact that a lot of poets from different regions of the world, because I will never get tired enough for not repeating that poets of the East are actually poets of the world, that always and every time and everywhere there is something more on the East than the point you just are in that very moment. And they became more famous, they became more known thanks to our program, not only on the East, but sometimes thousands or tens of thousands of kilometers of their homes, like, I don't know, Hungarian poets becoming known or famous in South America, or Romanian poets becoming famous in India or in Bangladesh. And I think this stimulates us to continue. This tells us that making this program really makes sense. Therefore, I'm very happy to be here together with the main producer of this program, Rick, and together with two excellent authors, Dane Ince and Sasha Stojanovich, and I dare say also two very good friends of mine. So let's continue, dear Rick.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Dane, let me talk to you, sir. Tell us a little bit about young Dane. When did writing or performing first catch your eye? Did you start writing when you were young? Did it come to you in your teenage years, college years? When did you really get caught by the idea of writing?
Okay, well, I've had sort of a off and on relationship to writing, and I come to writing from a fine arts background, studying fine arts in college, and that harkens back to my recollections as being 5 or 6 and living on Collins Street in Fort Worth, Texas. And I would draw pictures. My mom would read Huckleberry Finn, and I would draw, Huck and Jim on the raft floating down the river or something. And she really thought that was the greatest thing ever, as moms usually do think of their child's art. But I do think from a very early age, I had some interest in this expression outside of a routine existence, wanting breakfast, wanting a cap gun for Christmas, or the normal things that a young Texas boy might be thinking about. And so I really started considering being more involved in writing and writing poetry kind of later in life here, after the death of my wife. And I thought of it as, when someone dies and then you have to set about cleaning up the remnants of that past life, a number of different things can happen to you. And she had hidden a number of empty vodka bottles around the place, which I was unaware of. And being in a state of grief and shock, you start to do things, and some of the bottles I just threw away instantly, but some of them, all I could do was take them out of where they had been hiding and put them on the kitchen counter until I had a collection of 6 or 7 bottles there. And then I started to think of them as material for artwork. And so I used that to create an altar in a tradition of Caribbean practices or other cultures that create these various artifacts. And at the time, it wasn't really a conscious thing in my mind what I was doing, but later I reflected on it, and then I realized, oh, this is very much like the environmental artist Andrew Goldsworthy, except he's out in the world collecting what he finds, focusing it together, for a particular experience that he wants to create. And then also, very much like Marcel Duchamp, who created ready-made out of the Dadaist, creating ready-made art. And there was a period when I was living in Los Angeles and I had a day job as a telephone operator, and I became acquainted with some writers and artists people, and one of them was a big fan of William Burroughs. So while I was sitting at the switchboard, I started reading Naked Lunch, and then that piqued my interest, and then I started reading everything I could get my hands on by William Burroughs. And while I'm answering the switchboard, so there's a weird dynamic.
Very different realities of reading Burroughs.
Yeah. And
talking on the phone, yeah.
And I had been vaguely familiar of the cut up fold in technique from years ago as a teenager working at a radio station in Houston, Texas, and stuff. So in a roundabout way, I've come back to writing as as an art form, thinking that it's a thing that I can do no matter where I am, even if I am reduced to just writing something in a notebook. I can create that that kind of thing, as opposed to thinking about having gallery shows and stuff like that, where there's a creation of all of these artifacts. Language and words and putting them into books is something that seems to be doable now. So
Let me, if I may, let me pursue the graphic art side of you just for a minute. I think you suggested, if I understood you correctly, that you were doing some graphics in college. You were doing some fine arts work in college. I'm curious,
yes.
what mediums did you like to work in?
Well, studying fine arts, that approach there, somebody that's interested in fine arts is interested in investigating different media and looking to see what's suitable, for a particular statement or something that they may be wanting to do. Now, obviously, there are fine artists that are, say, exclusively sculptors or painters or watercolorists or that kind of thing. So I can, I enjoyed painting. I don't think I was really ever. I didn't really excel at that. I don't think, but I was interested. I did printmaking. I like to work with graphite. So I think I had more of a conceptual frame. So I was going to
Oh,
look to
neat.
see what it was that I wanted to say, and then see what was the best thing. Should this statement be a sculpture, or is there a series of things? Is this a series of prints or whatever it is, as opposed to like focusing in on some narrow area. So
One other thing I was curious about in that regard. Now, was this 70s, 80s, 90s? When were you in college and going through?
in the 70s. This would be in the 70s. In the
Okay,
70s.
okay. So after your wife passed away, if I gather correctly, you've done more writing since then.
Yeah, that was because when I was assembling the stuff for the altar, I made a number of pictures, and then there was a number of things that I was doing that I realized, oh, actually, there's something inside of me that's connected to an art tradition. So this is not just a manic grieving process itself. This is an artistic expression that's coming along in a tradition of other kinds of art, and the motivations would have been different, at different times for those artists. For example, sensitizing people to the concept of what is art, in terms of Marcel Duchamp, and realizing that art is really everywhere in the man-made surrounding that we exist in, all the way to a more modern artists who are saying, well, everything is art, and art can be made out of everything. Look at when I sew these leaves together and let them float down the stream. Now I've changed your perspective on how you see the natural world that you inhabit.
I have the feeling that thank you, that actually for you it was a continuous, an unending challenge, double challenge. On one hand, to understand us as a form of art, everything what was surrounding you, and it was really impressing the way you put it and the way you formulated this very original idea, and in the same time saying words, inventing words about these forms of art that were surrounding you, and that were actually also different aspects of reality. I mean, constating, finding out that something is art, it is a certain thing, it is a certain interior fulfilling. But finding words to talk about it, it is already another level. And I have the feeling, if I'm not wrong, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, please let me know. I have the feeling that that's the moment when the poet Dane Ince surpassed the plastic artist Dane Ince, in the moment when he wanted to define with words what was defined until that moment only with the means of the plastic arts. That means only with those things which were talking without words, which were expressing their artistic value only with their visual valences. Is it right? Is it right?
Yeah,
Am I right?
I do think, yeah, I do think that, yeah, that one sense, yes, one has supplanted the other, with recognizing that I can, address my artistic concerns through the use of words, and then considering them, considering them in an abstract way as being, there's a word for it, but it's the study of symbols, but they are, the shapes on the page, but I really haven't gotten into that. But one of the things I was going to say that in my earlier days when I was studying art, I really did wrestle with the question of the role of the artist in society, the things that I'm interested in. For example, if it was what some people may call abstract expressionism, or it is a kind of art that's interested in let's say a painting, for example, what are the elements that go into that? And I think the biggest way to kind of frame that is to look at graphic art before the invention of the camera and graphic art after the invention of the camera, because there were certain technical things that were no longer necessary for artists to do because it could be taken over by a camera in some sense. So that freed artists then to concern them with the elements that go into the painting, for example. And it could be that some types of representational art, everything that's going on there from a technical standpoint is to sublimate the materials to the expression of the object, so that an apple looks like an apple, or it looks like a really juicy apple. And then, at some point, people thought, oh, well, I can make a painting of an apple that looks like an apple. People will recognize the appleness of it, but then they will also see the thickness of the paint, and the quality of the paint and the quality of the brushstroke. And that's part of the experience, to finally going all the way over to, well, it's just about the elements of the paint and how the paint adheres to the canvas, and how the different, all of those, which becomes very far removed from non-artist experience in life, what they may be interested in. And so I think now that being a little bit older, I've come to a happy understanding that my connection to humanity is what is of interest to other people, not necessarily my interest in the technical part of writing, or how two words sound together, one after the other. Although that's something I can still do, so I'm now embarking on this as journalism in one sense, but through the lens of an abstract expressionist. So I'm telling the story, but I'm also playing with the combination of words in a way that's just a purely artistic invention in my own mind, and things that I might find appealing, but also realizing that the connection to my art and my humanity is the same connection, so that I would write grief poems, for example, and that writing those grief poems is what's going to connect me to other people who have experienced that or will one day, experience similar things.
Dane, let me ask you a question. We have our, if you will, our pastoral poets, our political poets, our humorous poets, our children's poets, poets who address social issues. Do you find, from looking back on your work, that there are themes that you address regularly?
Yes, I think I touched on it a little bit, and that is just the abstract use of language is something that comes up for me over and over again. So at this particular point, my concern with that, and then also with like I said, journalism, reporting, reporting my sensation, my observation, and it might fit into certain things. I'm kind of place is a very important thing in the work, and it comes out. It's not something that you can necessarily control it, but then becoming aware of, oh, wait a minute, this particular interest in writing is coming from my connection to a certain place. It's coming from my appreciation of other artists. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm thinking politically, but I don't know how you can. That wouldn't be my agitprop. Wouldn't be my main purpose. I would be political just because that's what the expression is, and it's going to, it's going to strike some people that way, that it is a political statement. And I do have a few pieces that are just very definitely political.
Are there any poets? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, are there any poets that you really admire, poets that kind of stand out or are models for you?
Well, I've been very associated, and I think pleasantly, and I'm glad that people see that in my work, even though I'm not necessarily trying to do that, but or be in a particular school, but I'm closely associated with beat poets, and I think that's probably has something to do with time and place again, and just I find some of the elements, some of the technical elements that they were concerned about are very appealing, and what artists do in other forms, and that is to meditate on a particular theme, to meditate on a particular place, an object. That's something that's in Jack Kerouac's discussion on how to write well. This is meditation on. You can see it in some other artists, graphic artists. Jasper Johns, I think, had a series of numbers, and so like the number 5 was something he was very interested in. He may have 200 paintings, pictures, drawings, prints, all dealing with the elements of the number 5. So that's something that's very abstract, expressionist type of thing that's very much wrapped into the artist's investigation of the technical elements of creating their work. As for other than the beats, I'm not really sure that I have I can identify some particular individual artist.
Well, I think it's very interesting. Actually, there are 3 mentions I would like to make here. First of all, that it is very interesting the way you, as a plastic artist, interpret plastic art with the help of words and with the help of literature, recreating a new kind of art on the basis, actually recreating at a second level a new kind of art on the basis of that first level, which is the plastic art. The second mention I wanted to make is that actually this you consider, if I understand well, you consider this implication of the artist in other fields of art and in making connections between them as a kind of duty, as a kind of responsibility of the artist. And I remember that one of Rick's uh, favorite questions for all our guests was, which do you think is the role of the artist in society today? Which do you think is the responsibility of the artist within the contemporary society and the evolutions on social and political levels? It is very interesting that actually you see this role. Of course, it has also its social and political dimension, but in your case, this role it's much more art to art than art to politic or politic to a politics to art like. And actually, it is also a way of being a militant. That means trying to connect this kind of those two kind of arts. But in the same time, I wanted to ask you whether do you have a political belief? Whether do you think that artists should play also a political role within the society, and if he or she has a certain responsibility in this concern. So I repeat, I don't mean the role of the artist as you so beautifully defined it as a connection between more kinds of art, but just this classical kind of political or social involvement of the artist, especially of the poet, in the historical, political, and social evolutions of his society. What do you think? Is the artist somehow responsible to do this, or he or she can manage it also without it?
Wow, that's a lot. I think probably each one of those sentences is probably an hour-long discussion of each one of them. But briefly, I think at one point we may all be familiar with this concept of art for art's sake, which was kind of a rebellion. No, leave me alone. Let me just do this investigation because it's what interests me. And I've lately come to think of art for humanity's sake. And I believe that it may be a radical idea to some that that we need art in our lives, and that the role of the artist is to recognize that we do need this as much as we can talk about Maslow's hierarchy of need and try to figure out where that comes in. But I happen to believe that the need for art comes in at a very, right after not being hungry and having shelter. It's something that really is very basic, that comes in, at a very low point in the needs, because I think one of the things is that people need to feel happy and safe and have room for a rich emotional life. And so the artist, by their I don't know how to really describe the obligation, but it is I believe at some point it's a witness to what happens. It's a witness to what happens in my life, what I see in the place that I'm in, and the time that I'm in, to communicate that, and then I think that the communication of that, the openness of it, the embracing of a broader idea or ideal about what it means to be alive and love and I think I do root myself back into some older thoughts and I'm not a particularly I don't feel like I fit in any particular kind of spiritual or religious structure, but I do think some of the older thoughts about individuals being a model, modeling behavior is a way to go. It's a Taoist view, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm Taoist because I don't subscribe to the whole liturgy of that or of Christianity or Buddhism or any of those things. So yeah, seeing injustice, it's important, I believe, for artists to say no, I'm not for that. And by standing up and saying I'm what you're not for and what you may be for, it is something people need, that to not feel isolated and alone, because there is someone there who's also says, hey, I'm over here, I have these thoughts and they're similar to yours. And so it's just
Dane, let me ask you a question. A lot of us, who've been doing this sort of nonsense for quite some time, we've made our peace with speaking in poetry to a world that doesn't officially pretend to pay much attention to us, and yet we see how poetry is used around the world. If you were approached by a young artist who said, Dane, should I spend my time on poetry, or is it a waste of time? What would you say?
I'm going to say no one can say where anything leads. No one knows what thing that you're going to experience or learn will have value to you later. And I do find, and it's difficult, but it's difficult to say yes to things. And I find that a lot of people have a no answer. And I guess this is of a time, if you want to call it liberal hippie ethos or something like that. So I would say to the younger artists that they should make the art that they want to make, and their duty is to make the art, whether anyone listens to it or not, or wants it or not. It is the act of making that creation that enriches the individual at whatever skill level one may be, but it is something that it's an innate human activity, and it is something that you should say yes to. Please do. Please make art.
Actually, yes. Actually, I think this answer of yours was very well and in a very focused way expressed by a word you used for the destiny and for the role of the artist as a witness. And this is actually also, this comprises and formulates also the answer to Rick's question concerning what would you tell to younger artists in this concern. And actually, this reminds me also that your sensitivity towards different kinds of art was proved also by the fact that you liked so much a certain Jack song, which was played to you by one of your friends. I don't know, and I don't think you remember of him either at your second wedding. This was also a way of being a witness and of witnessing a message, an artistic and a sentimental message from other meridians.
Yes.
Wonderful. Dane, now we're going to enter the period where we're going to have you read a little bit, okay?
All right.
Now, do you want to collect a couple pieces or do you have them handy?
I have a couple of pieces, and I might have to stop and let me just do this. I have a couple of.
Why don't you go ahead, take a minute
All
and
right.
find them now. And let me make one suggestion, if I might. You're right now positioned really close to your camera. So we really only see a little bit of your forehead, a little bit of your eye. And just as a visual artist, I have to ask you if you could pull back just a little. We'll see a little more of that.
I don't know if I can.
All right. Well, as far as comfortable.
I'm tethered to headphones, and
Gotcha.
this has a fixed focal length on this. It's a wide angle thing. I think that's a I don't know.
It's better now. We were seeing much more of your face, and
okay.
I like that myself.
In the 60s, within the cinema new waves, in the 60s, this was a technique, actually filming only parts of someone's faces and let the viewers imagine the rest. So actually, Mr. Spisak, we can say we are actually using this kind of metaphor also in our
avant-garde. That's us.
Avant-garde. That's right. Avant-garde, 60 years old. So Dane, what about reading something?
Yeah. Okay. Let me do this. I have two things that I'm working on. One of them is called Texas Poems, and then the other one is called, and I'll read some of that first. I'll read a couple of poems from that. It's called Destiny Murder. And the way Destiny Murder came about is hold on here. I'm going to have to pull this. The way Destiny Murder came about is I wrote a poem, and I thought, this sounds like a particular genre. And then I started writing some other poems that were more particularly on point. And let's see, I need to, yeah, here we go. And I call it pulp poetry or beat noir. And so I just about got that book finished, and then I just about have the other one, Texas Poems, finished, and that came about because I saw that poems related to place, my being from Texas, had infiltrated, so I decided to write more, particularly, on point, to collect the pieces of material in some way related to place, Texas, where I'm from. So let me start with Destiny Murder, and the title poem is called Destiny Murder. She folded my brain so much Saturday laundry. The rotating fan in the corner pushes this little heart's worth of heat from one corner to the other. Still hot, sweaty, 11 p.m. night, cracked concrete, hard on my back, smoking. Wonder how long the plume lasts, longer than gunshots last blood spurt. Flip a coin to bet myself. I win. I lose again. Looking up at the ceiling, apocalypse, empty Hiram's rye bottle on the floor, ice bucket, few drops left of slush. It's a roadside motel, hot and strangeness. Number 41 this month. I carry a gun. It's a job. It seems like a blink from before midnight to the first bird chirp. No sleep, no shower, dress, coat, hat, shirt, tie, hangman's noose loose. I'm sweaty. It's sweaty. It's a bad, bad day. I head for bad breakfast in a bad coffee shop. It's black and bad stubble. Reflection in the coffee, steam clears in a moment. I see me in the bottom of my second cup of joe. May the waitress sloshes coffee all day. Putting on my hat, I watch her and wonder lighting a cigarette to see her move through the diner, looking through the windows. I wonder with that body in mind, what she does for fun. There's nothing but shade. Still, it's hot. No place at all for coolness on the highway, now heading west, Route 66, destiny murder, destination hell. Feels. You will be changed after the flood, after the earthquake melted your ice cream cone, after the conflagration frozen you so hard you need an ice pick to answer the phone. You will be changed. The routine will strike now like boiling rain. It's like that. That is what I saw. I'm a witness. I swear you will never be the same. Flat on my back on rooftop flat, looking skyward, orange gelato, heaven floating, horror above. That's what I saw. My eyes see sadness. What am I doing here? I could be pulling and pushing together someplace else. For now, I inhabit Strangeville. Alone, I weep like everyone who feels. Mid-die.
A wonderful poem, and in the same time, it expresses so much and in such a complex and intellectual way your vision about the artist as a witness. Each verse expresses this in a different way. Really a wonderful text. Let's go further.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, hold on a second here. Let's see. Let me pull that back up. I keep losing.
Yes, I think after this text we are not the same.
Okay, let's see. I would like to stop that. I don't know what happened to the. I want to switch over to the Texas poems now, and I have a couple of kind of short ones. This is I mentioned Collins Street, and this is kind of a, so I don't know, place important.
Okay.
Someplace in Alaska, the plane overshot the runway, crashed, burned. Now I will never know. It is a journey becoming an expert on the secret shape of holes. I carry this from the day in the dark in a bare wood room at the back of the house on Collins Street. The sun was streaming bright, beating down bright on bare dirt backyard. The front yard surrounded by a small grove of black oaks. In springtime, the fuzzy yellow asp would rain down from branches high, stinging near the creek where we caught crawdads. Blinking, trying to make sense of the words. What would it mean? What does it mean? Your daddy died in a plane crash. I thought you should know. Roadkill. Throw away my letter when it comes. What is in my heart now is tiny speck of salt, hoping you are happier. Throw my letter in the garbage. It is an untrue rhyme. When it arrives, this is the last goodbye. You will be fine. I wish you had all of your wishes. Feel warm sunshine on your face like the holiday postcard. Wish you were here. Wish you were. Wish. Life never looks like it does. Resembles hardly anything in the pictures. I'm sorry. I was sleeping. Oh, the pain my dreams cause. While waking, I learned to hear sadly my own voice, follow my path down to the river. Too much creamed coffee rolls by. Revel in the celebration. Hair grows on my tongue. I pluck each silver strand out. Each individual in their time. Black oak, summer shade, red-eyed, miserable, lachrymose smile, mascara bleeding, flouncy jackrabbits evade rattlesnake bites. as death, as West Texas highway roadkill. Smell the stale summer still air. One cool starry sunset. One more cool starry sunset. Hansa, Arali, Azo, suitable substitutes for the last drop of cadmium yellow on the palate before it's callable as night. Thank you.
Wonderful. So powerfully visual, Dane. I really enjoyed them.
Yes, one
Mircea,
can feel
go
one
ahead,
can
sir.
feel the plastic artist there. Sorry, it's only one.
That's okay. Dane, you want to wrap up with one more, sir?
Yeah, let me see. Let me grab some one last one here.
Take a minute, no problem.
Okay. Oh yeah, here was the one that I was looking for from the series on Destiny Murder. It's a mid dive. Morning drunks were never very entertaining. They have the purpose of oblivion. Every poem is a death poem. The black cat sits in midnight dark, casting a long shadow, trips me into mid-drive. All right, hold on. I got a cat who's carrying on in the background. I'm not going to be able to stop that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much. That was a marvelous chance to talk to you. Really appreciate it. And it was nice to hear several pieces of yours. I honestly haven't heard too much of your reading, so this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And it was, I guess, I want to mention only one thing. Those Texas poems, I have to admit, this is the part I know the best from your works, and I think this characterizes, this tells the most and the best about you. Actually, it is just I can imagine the very wild nature of the Texas state, and that that um, um, that violent manners of people there transformed into a very fine poetry by you, transformed into a very fine art. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing with us some of your wonderful poetry. And maybe to add, Rick, also that Dane received a literary grant, literary award not so long ago, and to congratulate him for this success and to wish him all the best also for the future. Thank you very much for being with us, Poets of the East. Dane.
Thanks, Dane. You take care of yourself, brother. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.